Hi there guys, Lee at FX Model Miniatures back again with another video. This time on something a little bit closer to my heart, the Y-Wing. This being the ROTJ 14 inch, just under 14 inch Y-Wing, that is. This model meant I don't think any of us had a clue it even existed until Prop Store of London posted images of it, and it was appearing in one of their prop auctions, and a photo shoot was done of this model. And I think it was back on the RPF days. It caused a bit of a fuss because everyone was freaking out, and there was like this new Y-Wing with all these different details, and it looked very different, and some of it was borderline ugly in profiles here and there. It just looked very different. Excuse me. And it wasn't until I believe it was Jason Eaton actually said, "Oh, wait guys, you do realise this Y-Wing is only like 12 inches long or so. It's only a small model." And that opened my eyes. Then I was like, "Oh right, cool. New fodder, new model." And some time went by, and I kind of looked at the model, but hadn't paid it a ton of attention. And I got to looking at the images that Prop Store of London took of the model, obviously for the auction. They took quite an extensive set of photos of it, and I decided, right, I want to build one. So I set about IDing, obviously, all the donor parts first. They always give us the biggest indication of proportions, dimensions, proportions. That they are your, they're the key that opens the proverbial lock, so to speak. So, beginning very slowly on a lot of parts that were very recognisable. A lot of staple kits. Tamiya 8 Rad, Tamiya Leopold, Hasegawa Leopold, Hasegawa Morse Carl. All of that kind of real eye-opening. Okay, I know this, I can do this. That was easy to spot. But then what there was a lot of conundrums, really, a lot of head scratching. I found myself going on to a site called Scalemates. Now, Scalemates is just an amazing tool for actually finding, dates on period donor kits, when they were available, if they would have been used during that time frame. And this model did actually throw up some of those weird timelines. I mean, being built for Return of the Jedi, you could only estimate this would have been built around the 82 kind of time, maybe early 80s. I really don't know when it was actually built, but a few of the kits used on it were dubiously dated 1984, I believe. On Scalemates. Now, there are some people that kind of poo-poo on the fact that this was a filming miniature. I believe it was. There are screen caps of it out there, which I believe is this model used on camera. But yeah, there are a couple of weird conundrums on, I think it's two of the model kits that were new to me. I actually found them. One is a Tamiya Kawasaki race bike, and the other a Tamiya 1350 New Jersey naval kit, and those two were a little bit borderline, but what's to say ILM never had access to if they had an account with Tamiya, Hasegawa, FX, etc. Did they get in on some kits earlier? We just don't know. We really do not know. Some people have felt that this was built as possibly a gift model. ILM did a few gift models to crew and cast, I presume. There was the Snow Speeder and a TIE Fighter, I think, that were offered. But this is a little more elaborate than just a gift model. My other thought was, okay, maybe it was a Star Tours filming model. There are Y-wings on Star Tours, I believe. Anyone correct me on that? I'm not really sure, having never visited or been on it. But anyway, I got to IDing the model and sat for quite a few months trying to put together every piece that I could to start, creating some kind of plan to initially building the hull, the fuselage. And with the help of Marvin Stiefelhagen, very big thank you to Marvin. Marvin actually in 3D drew the original and what is the final hull draft for this model in 3D. Excuse me. The reason we went with 3D, it was really, I'm not the hugest fan of 3D models, but that's not saying I'm anti 3D modeling. It's quite an elaborate, amazing tool for some very tricky parts that in the physical realm would sometimes be very difficult in styrene and strip and all that kind of stock. But anyway, we created an initial hull pattern based on dimensions I came up with, and we had it printed. That hull pattern, so I did find out, was actually pretty incorrect. I'd made some mistakes along the way. Other things, some things needed to be changed out and adjusted, and whatnot. But what I did in the meantime, I started piecing together just what I'm calling a prototype build, and that is this guy here, if you can see that. And this was the very first build. That there is the prototype hull, which on the final model there's quite a lot that I changed. There's quite a lot of other. It was much easier to get this print, this naked printed hull, and start applying just some roughly cast physical donors to it. And it just gave me just a much more, a much better idea at how physically everything's going to, almost interlink and fit over each other and whatnot. But that's about as far as that one went. I never really touched any more of it. That just sits on the side now, gathering dust, because we then created the new hull draft, which were these pieces. And these are raw, uncleaned 3D prints of the hull that is used on this model. So still quite a lot of work in those. I mean, print lines and whatnot. I mean, those are one of my bugbears of 3D printing. It's almost like doing a job twice. But yeah, that was the naked hull, and she just fits such as. So I had this in hand now, and all my donor parts, of which there are quite a few on this model. I'll get to that. But from that, I started creating what would be the master patterns for the hull. And these are the hull masters. I've actually joined these because I plan to I plan to actually build this at some point. Obviously, these are not cast donor parts on here. These are all original Tamiya and Hasegawa donor parts. So the castings would be just as clean and as accurate as could be. So that was the whole master, which was then sent to a very good friend, a very kind man, Ed Francais. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Ed. And Ed offered to cast said whole masters, which Ed did an absolutely phenomenal job. It's very rare I get to see castings as good and as clean as what Ed is he's capable of making. He really is a phenomenal moulding and casting artist. Obviously then also we needed engines, so these are the master patterns. You can still see some of Ed's pen work and tabs he had to glue on to mould these, but these are not 3D printed. These were scratch built myself by hand, again utilising all the found donors, of which there's quite a few. I mean, there's some real just for instance, I think that's just one of only maybe one or two F-14 Tomcat parts used on it. But then you've got other parts which are quite predominant, used all over, like the Tamiya 1350 Bismarck. I mean, you've got some, various Bismarck pieces there. There's some Tamiya M5 A1. That's one of the pipes from the Kawasaki motorcycle, which is used quite a lot over the model, actually. I mean, some 88mm, Tamiya 88mm, just a few little parts from the 88mm on it. I mean, there really is such a high number of donors used on this, and some of those donors, even though they're staple kits to us, and full of really lovely parts, only used one or two parts from them. So they really had a parts bin in front of them that was very well utilised. I mean, here is the cockpit pattern. That was the cockpit master. The cockpit master was actually that was also 3D printed. The only piece that isn't 3D printed, if I free up a hand here, is this little part here, which is from the Tamiya I think it's 124 935 Porsche, I think it was, just for the canopy turret. But it was, very kindly, Stephen Radler handled this for me. A huge thanks to you, Stephen. Your model will be coming out to you shortly. Your cast parts. Stephen was pivotal in making this cockpit pattern happen, which again, I wasn't a big fan of it initially. But I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I was going to build this obviously in styrene, the old-fashioned way, but moving with the times, I tried something new, and it came out a really nice pattern. Because on the prototype, this one, that's not the final cockpit. That is actually, it was a really scruffy print, kindly donated by John Simmons of John Simmons Modelling. Just so I could just get something on the front of this model, because at the time this was done, the final cockpit didn't exist. So John donated this, which I think was printed from a Dave G pattern. I just sanded the hell out of it to get all the panel lines out, because it was just covered in gunk and crud and it was broken to bits. So I just needed something just to get on the front of the prototype, just to get an idea of the shape and whatnot. And yeah, finally, after, I'm presuming, quite a few headaches on Ed's part in casting, I took delivery of some beautiful resin parts, which I started putting together. I built myself a Y-wing, which is the one seen here. This is my personal build. and I built Ed one for his display. Now, this entire build is resin. I wanted to build an entire model in resin parts, just to see if it was possible. You know, there are some extremely small parts on this model, very fine, tricky parts to cast, and it was a fine balance in what parts could plant onto the hull and cast clean, which, as you can see, they really are. But then there really is a high number of parts that are then additional to that, plant-on parts, if you will, that create just a huge amount of nice undercuts and just the level of detail that ILM would have wanted from this model. And it's quite strange, actually, that they went to the lengths of just layers of details and kit parts on this model. For it to be, I mean, it's barely seen on screen, I believe. It's just, you know, there's nothing of it. At the scale it's around 148, thereabout, 14 inches long, or roughly 148 scale, I guess. And honestly, it's probably quite passable for a hero pass, within reason. But there really is some just amazing detail on it. I mean, so many kit parts. So, you know, it's yeah, it really opened my eyes to the amount of kit parts that are just layered on top of one another. I mean, if I just come in here a little bit, you've got so many just new suspects, really. I mean, you've got Tamiya Renault RE30. It's the little 120 RE30 Renault. First time I did that kit on anything, but it's used quite a lot here. I mean, it's actually used here as well. You've got the engine pieces there. It's also on the wings. It littered all over this model. And then what is also surprising is the larger RE20 Renault is actually used all over the model as well. Less than the 120 model, but it's still dotted around in the understructures of this model. So both Renaults are actually used on this, which was quite cool to find out. And then some smaller pieces, which they took a while to find. I mean, you've got these little things here on the engine, and they're actually on the hull too. Those took quite some time to find, and I found those in conjunction with these little things here, which both of these are from the Tamiya, New Jersey. Now, again, I'd never ID'd that model before for any Star Wars builds. Totally new to me. Again, I think it was dated 1984. But there it was on the model. I believe I'd found this part first. And then, obviously, when you discover a new model kit, it's priceless. You know, you start chasing around, see if there's anything else of use in there, and it gleaned this part as well, which was really cool. It was really nice to find those, because they would have been problematic to scratch build. It's very much a facsimile of the larger, you know, a smaller facsimile of the larger Y-wing, you know, the New Hope 76, 75, 76 hero models. You know, everything kind of has a nod to it. I mean, even these pieces here, which are Morsakal, and I think these were Bismarck barrels. You know, everything has a nod to the original models. But as I said, this is completely built from cast parts. We've even got, there's a lot of Ford DFV on this model as well. It's quite a lot of it. I think it was Ligier JS11. There's quite a lot of Ligier JS11 on this. This little part here with the Ford logo. It took me a while to find the correct cylinder head for that, because on the Ligier, the Ford logo is actually a bolder font than, for instance, the JPS Mark III, or I think the McLaren M23. So that took a bit of head scratching, but yeah, finally found it, which was nice. And you've also got some Rocco Tiger there. One of the tiny little Rocco tanks make an appearance here, and that's emulating again the larger prop, which it's pretty good. Nice little find by ILM to use that. Again, that's another cast piece from the original. Another one, really strange, Saturn V engine bell. I mean, like, who'd have thought, a Saturn V engine bell would be turned the other way and trimmed and used as the boosters here. Really strange choice of part, I always felt. Which there are a few on this, if I'm honest. There's a few parts that are I'd have used something different, maybe, such as the cockpit gun. I mean, you got the little cockpit gun there, and it's actually a Tamiya Prince of Wales turret with just a small little piece from the Morse Carl there. So yeah, there are some amazing decisions made on it, and then some that I'm not a fan of, but you replicate it as close as you possibly can. That's what we do. That's why we do it. That's why we love it. When she was all together, mine and also Ed's, they were then primed, and we were on to paint. Painting was this model is very loosely based paint-wise on the Gold 3 or Magic of Myth Y-Wing you might have all seen. It's very loosely based on that. A lot of the if I move around this way, you've got a lot of the blast and spatter marks up the cockpit here. There's quite a lot that emulates the Gold 3 Y-Wing, but it's a very diluted effect on it. It's very simply painted. So she was just base coated in Archive X Reefer White initially, to which then a lot of airbrushed washes were applied in all the greebly details, just letting it flow all over those. And then the main hull, I think there's 2 or 3 weathering colours in there. I think I use like light lark, dark lark. There's a tiny bit of rust, and then it's pretty heavily just misted with grime. It's really greyed out and misted down with grime. There's also foundation misted over there. The engine domes and cockpit, of course, are left pretty stark white, but again are still misted down somewhat with grime. M55 light blue on the canopy and side cockpit stripes there. It's a really nice blue to use. I think it's pretty Y-Wing and X-Wing canon. And then the yellow. Now the yellow, now this camera, it does saturate things a bit too much. These images are a little bit more saturated than it actually looks in the flesh. But the yellow, I'd felt for a while that Reefer Yellow wasn't quite right for all Y-Wings. So what I ended up doing, Ed's model was actually Reefer Yellow. I used Reefer Yellow on the engine stripes and the cockpit stripes. What I did for my model, this model, I tried something different. I actually tried SP Armour Yellow. Now SP Armour Yellow, it's much more rich. It's much darker. Reefer Yellow is very lemony in tone. And to get a good deep tone, you have to go pretty thick with Reefer Yellow. So I tried SP Armour, and this is probably a couple of passes with the airbrush of SP Armour Yellow, and yeah, that worked out really nice. I actually really like this yellow. It suits this model much better. So that's my go-to now for these. I mean, you know, your mileage may vary if you're painting a studio scale gold leader, for instance, which I think still would be Reefer Yellow. The SP Armour Yellow is just a bit too rich and deep for that. So yeah, you know, that got me my personal resin build of the Y, which I will be visiting again. Obviously, building from the original patterns, I'm going to be building my, you know, another personal build in original donor parts. So then this one will probably go elsewhere. I'm not really sure, but yeah, another one for me, you know, myself will follow at some point. And then some of you may know, you may have seen that I'm actually working on just a small run of 5 of these Y-wings that I plan to offer at some point. And I've been working hard at those. And if I just move this across, I can put this into camera. These, yeah, well, this is one of the 5 ROTJs that will be completed at some point in the future. This is actually build number 1. I'm not actually numbering them as you know, finished pieces. It's just I had to number the 5 because there's so many extra donor parts and tiny parts that go on these. Yeah, it's quite easy to forget where you were if you're working on 5 all at once. So yeah, but this is number 1. Save for the rear fins there, and these little details that go in here. This one's about ready, or close to being ready for base coat. So I'm hoping to get all 5 in this kind of position soon, and base coated. ID wise, I've really tried to get this as accurate as I possibly can. I've sat on this project on my own for quite some time. I've had some amazing help along the way, and I'd say, without doing math, I'm probably around about 97-98% there on kit IDs. There are a very small number of tiny little parts which I have had to I've had to scratch build. You know, I just cannot find them, but they've worked out pretty nice. Actually, they've worked out pretty good. They fit with the build. They're as close as I could do without 3D printing them, which is something I didn't want to do. But for the huge amount of parts that are on here, she's pretty accurate. You know, I mean, dimension wise, proportion wise, and detail wise. So very happy. You know, it's been a very long project, and still not at the end of it yet. Obviously, I want to get this run of 5 done and painted, and then get to my own, which will be my final build, and then I'm just going to hang them up. That will be it. Yeah, but it was just it's just been nice to actually just talk about just a different take on the Y-wing. You know, we can argue all day long on whether it was actually filmed for the movie or not. I mean, I know smaller models exist of this in the archives. Now, I don't know whether they're actually AMT models just used for animatics, possibly. This was definitely not an animatics model. I mean, in here, I mean, on my own build, and also Edwards build, I added the bulbs here. It's not illuminated, they're just faux LED lenses, but this model was illuminated. It's got illuminated engines, and it even has, these are still not added, but it even has 2 little brass contacts here on the original prop. You can see the images of this model on propstore.com. Check them out if you want to have a look over it. But yeah, there are 2 actual contacts here, which I presume are for the lighting. And she did have, I think, 3 mounting points on the original. This tiger piece here is removable, and there's a rear mounting point. Obviously there is the underside mounting point as used here, and then also something that we modelled into the cockpit is this little V shape here. Now that exists on the original filming miniature, and I think that weird little V was actually used, you know, it was possibly cut or filed in, so there was clearance for a nose armature mount, which is interesting. So again, it seems just a little bit too elaborate to have been just a gift model or anything other, you know, or an animatics model. You know, there's quite a lot going on with it. 3 mounting points, illumination, you know, very, very high level of detail and attention given to you know, donor part application. So yeah, you know, I have spoken to a couple of ILMers, ex-ILMers, in regards to it, and they have no clue about it. You know, that they don't know. You know, I'd love to find out who may have built it. Yeah, all these, you know, all these answers to questions we always want as modelers, as studio scale filming replica modelers. We always want all the answers, but you can't always get that. But it would be nice to know, you know, just to have some more information on it. You know, just having been on the journey of it, as you know, to the best of my abilities. Yeah, it'd be just nice to have that information. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that there. I'll update you all on when these 5 are finished. I've actually got another, I've got a casting that I put together some time ago. I need to finish. I actually painted one of these castings as a Gold 2 Y-wing, the New Hope Gold 2 livery on it. It was just to see if that kind of paint application would make for a model in photography appearing a lot more grandiose than it really is. But once that's finished, I'll update you guys on that one. I'll have to do a short little video on that one, because it's quite attractive actually, using the New Hope livery and hues and the design of that Y-wing on one of these smaller castings. It really fits, it really works. So yeah, I'll update you guys soon on that. So anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you for all the kind words people have been saying so far. It really means a lot. It's helping me talk about these models, and not being able to get to any cons, etc., to show them. It's just nice to share and, you know, just banter on about them, really. You know, once they're built and painted, they kind of get forgotten about. You know, a lot of my models have just been stuffed in corners, and that's that. You know, the journey's over, the ride's over. But it's always nice to revisit, talk about them, and you know, and share the information. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.